All right, shalawam. First off, I want to say all praises to Yahawah, bahasham Yahawashi, bahasham Kwadash. Double honor to apostles, elders, the GMS, to the elect doing the work in sincerity and in truth. Shalom. There's GMS precepts. Nazar Chud here. All right, so this is I gotta do this show over. My mic wasn't on, but all right, so I'll try to do this again. So this article is from New York Times. As you can see, it says China. Global, and I remember to put this in the description. It says China announces record trade surplus as its exports flood world markets, right? Because they're a big export country. It says China's surplus reached 1.19 trillion last year, a 20% increase from 24, which is huge, right? It says as Beijing kept the currency weak and pursued self-reliance to replace imports, right? So as you can see here, this is a manufacturing plant in China, right? So basically, like I said, I'll leave this in the description, but this article is basically saying that China, this really screws America, right? Because when Trump ran a year ago, right, his whole thing was, one of his main platforms was he's gonna bring, matter of fact, what was it? Bring America back or whatever, right? He's trying to make America more self-reliant, and try to create things and products that they normally get from China, right? But China is doing such a good job making good products at a cheap price, and they were able to do even better than they did last year or the year prior. Last year, they had a 20% increase in profits on their exports. It's really slowing down the goal of America to become more self-reliant because they're selling such cheap products, right? So it's really, China's growth is really, and mind you, these are one of the two big economies in the world. China is basically the opposite of America, right? They sell a lot of stuff, they export a lot of things, where America, they buy a lot of things, right? Or they import a lot of things or products. So and right now, right, like I said, Trump's whole thing was he's trying to become more self-reliant. He's not trying to import as much. He's trying to create a lot of things and products domestically, which we know is going to take time. But this is just going to slow down that process, man. And this is beautiful, right? But when I thought of this, or when I saw this, I thought of Isaiah 14. Right? It says, Isaiah 14:10, it says, all they shall speak and say unto thee, art thou also become weak as we? Art thou become like unto us? Right? Let's see what that word speak is. Speak, right? It says Aina, right? Answer, respond, testify, shout, to answer, respond as a witness, to make answer, receive, answer, utter, tunefully, to dwell, right? So, right, this is what they're saying. This is what these other nations are, in this context, this is what China is saying right now, right? They're looking at America and they're like, yo, y'all, you guys are not the big bad dude. You're not that guy anymore, right? China, it's like China's like a liquor store in America is trying to quit drinking all that liquor, but everywhere America turns, he just can't get enough of this cheap, good liquor, right? That might be a bad analogy, but you get the point. It's making it hard for America to become self-reliant. But like I said, that's all the Lord. That's all Yahawashi doing that, man. Okay? And a lot of these scriptures, it's like a lot of these scriptures come out a lot. But that's the time that we're in, man. We're in a time where all these prophecies are are repeating itself, right? And that's the whole thing. There's not that much prophecy left, but I find myself going into the same scriptures a lot. But that's the time we're in. We're in the time where all these other nations, they're becoming stronger and boastful. This is Isaiah 4, and we'll jump down to 11. It says, "Thy pomp is brought down to the grave, and the noise of thy vials. The worm is spread under thee, and the worms cover thee," right? Basically, that's like a allegory of saying that in pride, the pomp is meaning their pride, right? Their pride is going so low, it's going down to the grave, into the dirt. And it says the worm is spread under thee and the worms cover thee, right? Because when a body is going, is in the ground, the body starts to decay and it starts to be covered by worms and all these parasites and things that break the body down, right? So that's just a figure speech. It's like a gotta fucking turn this phone off. Right? But that's beautiful, man. Right? America is becoming that nation that other nations look down on. And that's all the Lord. Because at one point, I had this too. Let me get Jeremiah 51. It says, Jeremiah 51:7, "Babylon hath been a golden cup in the Lord's hand, that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine, therefore the nations are mad." Right? Because the same nation, the same power, the same entity, you see this word here, Lords, is in all capital, meaning it's the Most High, it's Yahawah. Right? The Babylon hath been a golden cup in the Lord's hand, meaning it was the Lord that placed this current nation or this current ruler to rule over the world, right? To be that top nation in the world. But the same power that placed this nation as a top nation or the top government, he can easily remove it from being that top nation or government. And that's what we're seeing now. We're seeing, and what shows you that whole situation in Venezuela, right? That was a sign, of a person might look at that and be like, yeah, that's, America or Trump showing strength, showing the strength, how he took down this nation. But really, that's showing their weakness, because they notice, it's clear as evident that their dollar is weakening. So this was like a desperate attempt to try to salvage that dollar, or salvage what is decaying. You see? So also, I looked up this. Let me look up this word here. Golden cup, right? Golden cup, Zahab Kawas, right? So the word golden, it means Zahab. It says it's gold, a precious metal, a measure of weight, and it says brilliance of splendor. You see? Brilliance, splendor. Right? So that's what the Most High did. He made America in the fashion of brilliance and splendor, right? But let's look at the word cup. The word cup, it says kawas, it says cup, or it says in a kind of owl, an unclean bird. You see, that's a spirit, man. Right? So the Most High put this unclean, right, golden bird, right, an unclean bird, as that top nation. I thought that was interesting. I didn't know that. I just saw that when I did this video. Like I said, this is a second recording, so, but yeah, so the Most High put this nation to be that top nation, but he can also remove it from being that top nation, right? And that's what we see now. That's why you see other nations surpassing America, man. And especially financially, this is, look at this. China's surplus reached 1.19 trillion, 20% increase from a year prior, man. So you can't say, oh no, America ain't doing that bad. All right, well, you had a economic rival that had a 20% increase in exports. Meanwhile, you have America that's trying to not be heavily reliant on imports. They're trying to make shit. They're not trying to buy shit anymore. Right? They're trying to create the things that they buy from other countries, mainly China. They're trying to create that stuff domestically, and that plan was going to take long. Even if China didn't have a record-breaking year, now that China had a record-breaking year last year, that's just going to slow down the plans of America, man, which is beautiful. It's the whole point of the video. This is going to be a quick video, like I said, but it's beautiful. All right, so I'll end it on that, man. Lord willing, you brothers and sisters were edified. Until the next show, shalawam.